what's in this pine thicket? Well, first off, you have me with a bush axe. But other than that, got a couple interesting lessons about plant ecology and what happens after a clear cut, because that's what happened here. So if you look around, this is pretty much just pine right here in front of me. It's a bunch of little pines, you know, at their thickest, you know, that one right there, what's that, about 4 inches across, 3.5 inches across, you know. They're about as thick as my forearm for the most part. Then over here, you know, you have a transition out of it. And you see over here, there's sort of, well, it's a thin strip, but there is a little stand of mature trees along the edge of that stream over there. Then you see these little pines start, and they get really thick right here because this is where the clear cut started. It is kind of interesting what happens after a clear cut. So this is an opportunity to observe that. I've been cutting this sort of path through here, or just maintaining, slightly widening an existing path. This was, I'm following game trails mostly, so that's like the little paths that all the critters take. So right here on the edge, you'll see one of the things that stands out to me the most is just how thick everything is. And there's a little bit more diversity here than you will see up in there. This is called the edge effect, or an edge effect. In ecology, if you have a sharp divide between two sort of ecosystems or habitats, then there will be an effect at that edge. And generally in a forest, this is something that kind of scares people away from going into the forest. The edge of the forest is going to be thick and dense and almost impenetrable. But once we get up in there a little ways, it's going to open up and be a lot more inviting. So they kind of put up a tough front, but once you get into a forest, generally they open up a bit if it's a sort of mature forest. This is not a mature forest. This is, like I said, I mean, look at all those trees. They're, you know, a few inches thick at most. So yeah, the edge effect makes it really thick right here. The sunlight hits it a little bit more. We got seeds of different types blowing in and trying to establish. So you have vines. There's a lot I see brambles around here, which are not pleasant to walk through. You also see a ton of vines and things, honeysuckle, grapes, etc. So let's walk in here a little bit further and show you sort of what I've been doing here. There are these little trails that go off. You can kind of see a little bit of a path right there. These are called game trails. So this is deer, foxes, possibly coyotes, raccoons, other sorts of things. You see all kinds of things happening in here. I don't know if you guys see all these little holes right here, but that's probably a squirrel burying nuts, or looking for nuts that it has buried, or looking for nuts that one of its friends has buried. Yeah, just sort of came through here, widened out a game trail. It's still a thicket. There's a couple things here and there. I see these hollies dotted about, but I didn't have to do a ton of widening here. See, there's a game trail right there. You can see going off that way. So I had to do a good bit of chopping right there at the edge back there, but up in here, not so much. It is, the game trails are wider, more well trodden. And the trees are, I know it still looks very, very thick, but they are a little bit more spread out. Now I want to show you guys a little bit of bush axe ASMR. So what I've been doing, you see that there's no branches down that side of the tree, but there are some on this side because I didn't do it. But I'll show you guys what I do. Just put the hook side of the bush axe, and then just sort of, isn't that satisfying? So it's just been a bunch of that going through here to clear things out. I could clear out those a little bit. Very satisfying. Now, there are creatures that live in here. I see a good bit of disturbance of things that I had cleared previously. And I've been trying to not take down whole trees. If I do, I make sure that they're pines. I don't touch any of these broadleaf trees. So this grows back with some diversity. But already, you're starting to see that there's a little more space in here. There are a good bit more clearings that are just sort of natural, where animals have been congregating and laying down to sleep. We got some litter. Of course, you got to have the litter. That's how you know you're in nature, is when you see the litter. But yeah, this is a really, using the term nature there, but this is a really sort of bastardized version of nature. Here's a much more clear area. Looks like in addition to the work I've been doing, you see that tree there, little tiny pine that I chopped down and laid there, but the pine straw has been trampled. Just a good bit more open and activity going on here. I see a path going off that way. Nice little game trail. Might be fun to follow that at some point. But don't want to go to the left too much, because towards the left is the neighborhood and I don't want to pop out in somebody else's backyard. But actually, look right there. So there's a pretty big clearing. So actually, let's go just right there. It's hard to do this one-handed. There's a briar. Apologies for the camera work. Holding the camera with my left hand and trying to work a bush axe with my right hand. Quite difficult. Yeah, here's a clearing here. Looks like there's another one that way, but yeah, a good bit more open in here. If you compare back to what we saw at the edge, we look straight up, there's a gap in the trees, you can see the sky. That was not the case back there. Yeah, little clearing, game trails going off in every direction. Probably deer or something. I'm probably standing in a deer bed right now. Got some moss down here on the ground, and this was, you see it sort of anchored into the ground over there, but this is disturbed. This is not attached to the ground. So there has been some animal activity here, probably a big animal. It seems like sort of incidental disturbance, not so much like intentional, like a raccoon was scratching to try to find something under the moss. Down here lower to the ground, I think those game trails might be a little bit more obvious. Kind of see that there's obviously a path there. It goes forwards and crooks back that way, but also the bottom of the path is sort of dished out like that from the traffic pressing the leaf litter down, as well as moving it to the side and smashing the dirt and compressing it as well. In addition, we have this little scrubby thing here. What are you? Looks like maybe some sort of elm. Very hard to tell during the winter, but look at those branch tips. Snipped off by deer teeth. I think people think that deer only eat grass, maybe leaves, but they actually kind of snip right through twigs and things as well. So back on my established trail over here. Let's keep going. And you do see some other things starting to take root in here. There's a eastern red cedar there. Love those guys. It's probably going to have a little bit of a tough go of it, but this one is in a little bit of a open spot here. Might be why it's doing better than some of the others that I've seen. But yeah, I mean, quite a bit more open once we're inside here. So we're away from the edge effect now, and you can see much farther. I can see clearings and game trails 20, 30 feet away, which was not the case right at the edge. I couldn't see 5 feet away. So coming through to over here, now we start to encounter a little bit of a different, maybe there's a different soil makeup here or something, but I'm starting to see some of these broadleaf things. There's Baccharis there. It's the Asteraceae family, has these beautiful plumes. There's a big one right there. Did check over that way at one point while I was making this trail and found another deer wallow. So let's go over there and see if we can take a look at that. Oh, look, more trash. Confirmation, we're in nature still. If you don't see the trash, you're not in nature. Once again, nature in very big air quotes. Looks like the deer may be eating the Baccharis, which is kind of crazy because I think that Baccharis has some pretty harsh anti-life chemical stuff going on. Very anti-herbivory, at least that's what I thought. So I'm not hacking a trail here because I don't want to establish a trail over here. I just want to see what's going on over here. Yeah, so a bit more of a clearing here. Oh, we got yeah, this is looks like maybe a winged sumac. It's definitely a sumac growing out of this old stump here. Old rotting stump. We see a house through the woods that way, so I'm definitely not going to go any farther that way, but the deer certainly seem to. There's a game trail right there that I can see. Heads through over to there. I believe the retention pond for that neighborhood is just on the other side of those trees. But yeah, here's a clearing. You can see there's a good bit of grass and stuff here. It's actually, so deer have snipped off this old, what is this? This is a dog fennel. Clump of dog fennel. They've snipped those branches off. Snip some off over there. They're sort of laying down. See a lot of disturbance actually. Things laying here and there. The grass seems sort of mushed down in various places. Here's clear game trail here going over to there, and do you see those two game trails converging? So there's one coming from that way and one coming from this way, and they meet up and they go down that one that I pointed out earlier that goes out to that retention pond. So yeah, pretty interesting, depending on your definition of interesting, I guess. But oh, there's a buck rub too. So that's where a deer would have been either marking his scent with little weird little glands on his head, or trying to scrape the velvet off its antlers in the spring. So tons of sign of deer activity in here. Try to get back to my trail. I'll go back by way of the litter. Bring a, oh, it's a happy birthday balloon. Oh, Mother's Day. Sorry. I'm gonna bring a bag in here pretty soon and start picking some of this up. But anyway, gotta get back to my trail first. Smash through here. But yeah, so keep going this way. Got a nice beautiful red leaf there. That is the leaf of a red sumac, or a winged sumac. So yeah, that probably came from that one that we saw back there in the clearing. Yeah, trail continues on this way. We are once again starting to, you see it's very thick now. It was actually very difficult to make the trail this way because we are heading back out and we're near the edge. I don't know if you can see it up there, but we are back in the edge effect on the other side of this pine thicket now. So we start to see brambles, which we didn't really see up in the very center of the thing that way. But here's some brambles now, much thicker pines. They're getting more sunlight because they're near the edge. There's not as many competitors. And now we're near the edge proper. We're starting to see some larger non-pine trees. That seems to be a sweet gum, which everybody looks at any tree that has these little wings and they think it's winged elm automatically. But sweet gum does that too. Have a little bit of footage of a good example of that side by side. And I can actually, let me just go ahead and prove it. Well, show you additional evidence of it. So this is that tree. Actually, this tree appears to maybe be dead. All the branches are dead. Seems to not be doing well. Well, can't really see the evidence that I was going to show you on this because everything's sort of withered. I was going to show you the terminal leaf buds, but they are, wow, this is just, it's just nothing. You can just knock this apart with the hard fart would blow this thing over. Well, I'll show you that other footage at some point. Yeah, come out this way, and now there's a little stand of pines sticking out right here. There's a stream over there, but now we're back in a little bit of a stand of more mature trees. There's a big elm there, some maples, big dead cedar right here. I love dead cedars. I love them when they're alive, but when they're dead, they look just so majestic. But anyway, gonna head this way. Maybe I want to path through there. I don't know, it's easy to go around this way. And a little more ASMR. So satisfying. But anyway, now, yeah, back out in the open. So that's what was in the pine thicket. So yeah, in general, I just wanted to point out sort of what's in these pine thickets. I mean, you see them everywhere because there's a lot of clear cutting that happens all the time. And a lot of times they'll clear cut, and then this paltry ecosystem doesn't even get a chance to grow back. It'll be the clear cutting because they're going to put down apartments or a strip mall or parking lot or something like that. You don't even get a chance to get this impoverished, kind of boring ecosystem. You get something even worse than this. But just wanted to make this video because it is kind of interesting to walk up in one of these pine thickets that's been growing for a few years. I mean, these pine trees, I don't know, maybe they're somewhere between 5 and 10 years old on average. Yeah, it's not a ton of biodiversity in here. There's really not much going on. I mean, you got the animals walking through, which I saw a turd somewhere I wanted to show you guys, but can't find it now. But anyway, other than that, it's pines. I mean, it's pines. It's a pine thicket. There's pines. You get the occasional holly. You get a little cedar trying here and there. There's a couple tiny oaks over my right shoulder there, giving it a go. But they're having a hard time. Everything has a hard time for the first several years competing with the pines. The pines are competing with each other. Eventually, this will turn into something a little more interesting. The pines will start to choke each other out. And then some of the winners of that succession will die for other reasons. And then that will open up a clearing in the canopy, which will allow light to get down to allow something else other than pines, hopefully, maybe on occasion, to grow. And that's how you slowly, very, very slowly build up diversity, build up the biomass in here, build up a more robust ecosystem. Most of these, I believe, are loblolly pines. There's a few Virginia pines, and maybe they hybridize a little bit or something like that. I don't know. But you know, you could just imagine, should something happen like a weird disease suddenly arise that takes out all of the loblolly pines, this whole area would be screwed. I mean, there's nothing but them in here. Yeah, that's hyperbole, but not a ton, really. I mean, it is mostly pines. Where is the turd? I wanted to show you guys the turd. Oh well, there'll be other turds. But anyway, yeah, just want to take you guys through here. A bit of a strange video because it's a bit of a strange environment. But hope you got something out of it.